My name is Ray Johnson. I'm 68 years old, and I live right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, not far from Durham. I'm a retired Master Sergeant with the State Highway Patrol, but I still work part-time in the station's administration, from 2 in the afternoon until 6 in the evening. Man, oh man. This story I'm about to tell you completely changed my life. And maybe it will change yours too, because you never really know who's standing right beside you, not even after an entire lifetime. I was born in Raleigh in 1957. I grew up feeling the sharp chill of the Blue Ridge winter and eating the best Carolina barbecue in the region. My childhood was simple, but we never wanted for anything. My father worked for the National Railway System, Amtrak. And ever since I was a little boy, I dreamed of serving my country, wearing a uniform, doing something important. And that's what I did. I joined the State Highway Patrol when I was 18 in 1975, and I dedicated my life to protecting people. In 1985, when I was 28, I met Lucy at a community fish fry. I fell head over heels for her beauty, her gentle way, her smile. We got married the following year and built a life together. We never got rich, that's for sure. A police officer's salary doesn't perform miracles, but we always lived with dignity. We built our little house up piece by piece. We had 2 children who are grown now and living far away. We were together for 33 years. 33 years, folks. Almost 4 decades. Sharing the same bed, the same table, the same dreams. Or at least, that's what I thought. About a year back, I started noticing strange signs. Little things, you know? Details that a man who spent his life in security learns not to ignore. A different cologne on the sofa. Wine glasses in the sink. When I came home. When Lucy knew I couldn't drink because of my blood pressure medication. Lucy was always tired when I got back from work. A neighbor asked me about the black Cadillac that was always parked outside my house, and the bedsheets were always washed on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you're enjoying my story, please leave a like to cheer up this old heart. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my next life stories. And tell me in the comments where you're watching this video from and what time it is right now. It makes me really happy to know which corner of America, or maybe the world, is listening to me and what time of day it is for you. My childhood in Raleigh was like any kid's life in the South during the 60s. I was born in 1957 and grew up running through the streets, swimming in the creek, picking muscadines right off the vine in the backyard, and playing marbles with the neighbors. My father, Marcus Johnson, was a railway man for Amtrak. He worked at the station that connected Raleigh to Charlotte and Atlanta. On weekends, he'd take me to see the trains arrive, those powerful machines bringing people from all over. My mother, Dolores, made the best fried chicken in our neighborhood, Valencia Heights, and sold it at the farmers market on Sundays. I grew up hearing stories of the civil rights movement, of Dr. King and the Freedom Riders. My grandfather had marched in the 1963 March on Washington and told stories of the battles for justice that happened right here in North Carolina. He was the one who taught me to shoot a rifle when I was only 7 years old. In 1964, we'd go out early while the fog was still covering the fields and only come back when the sun started setting behind the hills. I wasn't the most studious kid in school, but I tried hard. I remember in 1967, when I was 10, our teacher took us to see the city's first color television installed in the town square. We were all stunned by that little box showing images in full color. It was a huge event for an inland city back then. Life was simple, but it had its charms. The smell of the cornbread my mother baked on winter mornings. The coffee shared in a circle with the neighbors, the poker games that lasted all afternoon when it rained. We ate collard greens, sweet potato pie, and pit-smoked pork every Sunday. On Independence Day, the whole city would be decorated, and the men would ride their classic American motorcycles down the streets. It was in that environment that I grew up, with a respect for tradition and the discipline my father taught me. By 1972, at 15, I knew I wanted to serve. When the United States hosted the Olympics in 1984, I proudly marched with the American flag through the streets of Raleigh. The idea of belonging to something bigger, of defending our land, really hit me. In 1975, having just turned 18, I joined the State Highway Patrol. My mother cried the day I left for basic training in Columbia, South Carolina, but my father puffed out his chest with pride. "Go, son," he told me. "Show them what a North Carolina man can do," giving me a tight hug before I got on the bus. The training was tough. Man. Oh man. Waking up at 5 in the morning, running miles, carrying heavy gear, learning to shoot, self-defense techniques, legal code. In the first few months, I was so tired when I went to sleep, I didn't even dream, but I gradually adapted. In 1976, I returned to Raleigh as a sworn officer and was assigned to the 4th Mounted Regiment. I rode patrol on horseback through the local farms and ranches, fighting against cattle rustling, which was common in the area. My father passed away in 1979. I was 22 years old. A heart attack took him while he was working at the station. It was a hard blow. My mother moved to live alone, and I, being an only child, split my time between the station and caring for her. They were difficult years, but the work and the patrol gave me purpose. I was promoted to corporal in 1980 at 23 and started to stand out in rural operations. The 80s brought changes for the U.S. and for me. Our work in security was also transforming. In 1983, at 26, I was promoted to sergeant after busting a major smuggling operation on the border with Mexico. I received a Medal of Honor, and my name was featured in the local paper, the Raleigh News and Observer. My mother cut out the article and kept it in an album of my accomplishments. It was in 1985, when I was 28, that my life changed forever. I had just received another promotion in the patrol after a successful operation. It was a Saturday in August. The winter was over, but the cold still cut through your bones here in Raleigh. I was invited to an anniversary party at the community center, one of the most traditional gathering places in the city. I wasn't much of a party guy. I preferred spending my free time fishing at the lake or playing basketball with my colleagues from the station. But that day I decided to go. The hall was packed with a local band playing those classic soul tunes that got couples dancing on the floor. That's when I saw her. Lucy was wearing a blue dress. She had chestnut hair down to her shoulders and a smile that lit up the whole room. She was 24 at the time. She was a recently graduated teacher at the downtown public school. I mustered up the courage and asked her to dance. I was never good at it. I stepped on her foot a few times, but she laughed so genuinely that it completely disarmed me. "You're with the patrol, right?" she asked as we danced. "I've seen you a few times in the square, always looking sharp in your uniform." I felt a little embarrassed, but I confirmed it. We talked all night. We found out we had friends in common. When I walked her home on Sycamore Street, I asked for her number. She wrote the number on a napkin and handed it to me with a smile I couldn't forget for days. The following week, I gathered my courage and called. We agreed to meet at the Portal Cafe a traditional downtown meeting spot since the 70s. I ordered a black coffee, and she wanted a hot chocolate with a typical regional sweet bun. We talked for hours about our lives, our dreams. Lucy had been born in Charlotte, but moved to Raleigh as a child when her father, an employee at Bank of America, was transferred. She told me about her plans to specialize in literacy and how much she loved teaching children. We met several times in the following months. I took her to see the view from atop the Capitol building. We had picnics at the Raleigh Park. We went to shows at the annual music festival. In December 1985, I officially asked Lucy to be my girlfriend over dinner at the Old Porch restaurant and a bouquet of wildflowers I picked myself. My mother, Dolores, adored Lucy from the first time they met. "That girl has a future, son," she told me after Lucy left our Sunday lunch. "Don't let her get away." And I didn't. In June 1986, after a 6-month courtship, I asked Lucy to marry me. We had a simple ceremony at the First Baptist Church of Raleigh with our closest family and a few colleagues from the patrol and the school where she taught. With my sergeant's salary, I managed to finance a small house in the San Javier neighborhood. It wasn't luxurious, but it was our home. Lucy continued teaching, and I stayed with the patrol. In the first years of marriage, our routine was calm. I left early for the station. She went to school. On my days off, we'd have a barbecue in the yard and invite the neighbors over, or we'd go fishing at the local reservoir. Life was simple, but we were happy, or so I believed. In 1988, at 31, I got the news that I was going to be a father. Lucy was pregnant with our first child. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. I painted the baby's room myself, set up the crib, and spent hours imagining what it would be like to hold that child. In March 1989, our son, Marcus Jr., was born. Seeing that little guy with his mother's eyes and, they said, my chin, moved me in a way I can't explain. Life gained a new meaning. I started working even harder, pulling overtime whenever possible to ensure my son had everything he needed. In 1992, at 35, I was promoted to staff sergeant, which meant a raise. The same year, Lucy got pregnant again, and in April 1993, our daughter, Anne-Marie, was born. Our family was complete. The 90s were years of hard work and dedication. I raised my children, teaching them values of honesty and respect, just as my father had taught me. Marcus was more like me, quiet and observant. Anne-Marie took after her mother, talkative and outgoing. Lucy was an excellent mother, patient and affectionate. Sometimes, when I got home late from the station, I'd find her asleep in the chair, with one of the kids on her lap and a storybook open on her legs. It was a scene that warmed my heart. In 1997, at 40, I lost my mother. Dolores passed away after a bout of pneumonia she couldn't overcome. It was a hard blow. I had to be strong for my children and for Lucy, but inside, I was shattered. My wife was my rock during that difficult time. She took care of all the funeral arrangements, hosted relatives, made food for everyone. At night, when we were finally alone, she held me and let me cry on her shoulder. "It'll pass, Ray," she whispered. "I'm here with you." The 2000s arrived, and with them came new responsibilities. In 2001, at 44, I was promoted to Master Sergeant in the State Highway Patrol. The ceremony happened at the Central Station in Raleigh, with the regional commander present. Lucy and the kids were there, proud. Marcus, at 12, was already showing interest in a military career. He always asked me to tell him stories from my operations. Anne-Marie, at 8, was my sweetheart, sharp as a tack, always with a book under her arm. Our house in the San Javier neighborhood was getting small for a family of 4. So, in 2003, at 46, I managed to finance a bigger house in the Pastita neighborhood, closer to downtown. It was an older house, needing renovation, but with 3 bedrooms and a big yard where I planted orange, lemon, and even a grapevine. Lucy loved having space to host her teacher friends for afternoon coffee with her sweet breads and donuts. Life continued its natural course. I left early for the station. Lucy went to school, where she was now the curriculum coordinator. Marcus entered the Citadel, the military college in Charleston, South Carolina, in 2004 at 15, fulfilling a dream of his and mine, too. It was tough seeing the boy leave, but we knew it was best for his future. Anne-Marie stayed in Raleigh, studying at Guadalupe High School, excelling in math and literature. In 2006, at 49, I completed 31 years of service in the Highway Patrol. I received a medal for my years of dedication and service. By then, I was responsible for coordinating patrol across the entire Piedmont region. It was a high responsibility job, dealing with personnel, shifts, incidents, and reports. I often arrived home exhausted but satisfied doing what I loved. Lucy was always my safe harbor. After a tough day, she'd make chicken and dumplings, my favorite dish, and sit with me on the porch to have a coffee while I vented about the day's problems. She knew every wrinkle on my face, every tired sigh, and knew exactly what to say to calm me down. At least, that's how I saw our relationship. In 2007, Marcus graduated from the Citadel and passed the exam for officer training school. Seeing my son follow a military career filled me with pride. I couldn't hold back the tears on his graduation day. Lucy squeezed my hand and smiled, but I noticed something different in her eyes, something I couldn't figure out at the time. Anne-Marie graduated from high school in 2010 at 17 as the valedictorian of her class. Unlike her brother, she wanted to be a doctor. She took the entrance exam for UNC Chapel Hill in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and was accepted number 1 into the medical program. I remember the day we took her to the bus terminal. Lucy cried the entire way home. "It's normal," I said, trying to console her. "Kids grow up and start their lives." She just nodded, staring out the car window. Our house felt silent without the children. At 53, in 2010, I started thinking about retirement. I had accrued enough service time and could retire as a sub-officer if I stayed a few more years. Lucy also talked about retiring from school. She said she was tired of the routine, the endless meetings, the difficult parents. In 2012, at 55, I was promoted to lieutenant, the last rank before the full commissioned officer ranks. It was recognition for a career dedicated to public safety. We had a barbecue at home to celebrate with grilled meat, potato salad, and the ice-cold beer we only drank on special occasions. Marcus came from Charleston with his girlfriend. Anne-Marie got a pass from the university. It was one of the last times we were all together as a family. I remember that at that party, a friend from the gun club, Arthur Sterling, showed up to congratulate me. He was a successful local businessman, owner of a chain of construction supply stores. He arrived in a gleaming black Cadillac, bringing an imported scotch as a gift. Lucy greeted him very warmly, perhaps too warmly. I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought it was just her being polite. In 2015, at 58, after 40 years of service, I retired from the State Highway Patrol as a lieutenant. The retirement ceremony was moving, with a speech from the commander and a 21-gun salute. Lucy was by my side, elegant, in a red dress. Our children couldn't attend. Marcus was on a mission on the northern border, and Anne-Marie was in the middle of a major residency rotation at the hospital. The first few months of retirement were strange. After decades of waking up at 5 in the morning, putting on my uniform, and heading to the station, I suddenly found myself without a routine. I started taking better care of the vegetable garden in the backyard, fishing more often, meeting old friends at the Portal Cafe to chat. Lucy continued working at the school. She would retire the following year. In 2016, at 59, I received an invitation to work part-time in the administrative section of the station. It was a quiet job, from 2 to 6 in the afternoon, organizing documents, helping with the training of new recruits, and sharing my experience. I accepted immediately. I felt useful again, even though I no longer wore the uniform. Lucy retired at the end of 2016 at 55. I thought we would finally have more time together, that we would take that trip to the coast we always postponed, that we would visit our children more often. But life had its own plans, different from ours. In 2017, I noticed Lucy was different, more distant, always on her cell phone, going out frequently to meet her friends. She started dressing up more, bought new clothes, changed her haircut. It's just a phase, I thought. After all that time dedicated to the school, she deserves to take care of herself. But there was something in her eyes, a different sparkle, when she received certain messages that should have alerted me. It was mid-2018, I was 61, when I started noticing the first truly strange signs. Lucy was more absent, even when she was home. She spent hours on her cell phone, always smiling at the screen, and when I got close, she'd quickly lock the device. "It's just a group chat with my old school colleagues," she'd say, but something in the tone of her voice didn't convince me. At that time, my routine was simple. I woke up early out of habit, made a strong black coffee, tended to the plants in the yard, and then headed to the station at 2 in the afternoon. I'd return at 6, have dinner with Lucy, we'd watch the news, and go to bed. On weekends, we sometimes went to the community center. Other times, we had old friends over. One day, in September 2018, I arrived home early from the station. I had a backache that made it impossible to concentrate on work. When I walked in, I caught a strong scent of men's cologne on the living room sofa. It certainly wasn't mine. It was an expensive, imported scent. Lucy appeared from the kitchen, visibly surprised to see me. "Ray, what happened? Why are you home so early?" she asked, nervously adjusting her hair. "Backache," I replied, looking around. We had a visitor. "Oh, yes. Rosa stopped by to drop off some recipes for me," she replied a little too quickly. Rosa was an old school colleague. I accepted the explanation, but the scent kept bothering me. It wasn't women's perfume. Days later, coming home from work, I noticed 2 wine glasses in the kitchen sink. Lucy knew I didn't drink because of the high blood pressure medication I had been taking since I was 58. "Who was here?" I asked, pointing to the glasses. "Martha came to visit me," she said, referring to another former colleague. "We had some wine while talking about old times." I started to get suspicious, but I scolded myself mentally. "You're getting paranoid, Ray," I told myself. "Lucy is your partner of over 30 years, the mother of your children." But the coincidences kept stacking up. In December 2018, near Christmas, Lucy started receiving many calls. She'd go to the bedroom or the backyard to answer them. She spoke softly. Sometimes she laughed in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. When I asked who it was, she always dodged the question. Was it Anne Marie or just the people from the book club? Our daughter, Anne Marie, now 25, was coming home for Christmas. Marcus, at 29, was on a mission overseas and couldn't make it. I thought my daughter's presence would ease the strangeness that had settled between Lucy and me, but she remained distant, as if she were physically present, but her mind was wandering elsewhere. On December 23rd, Lucy said she needed to buy the last Christmas gifts. She left, dressed up a little too nicely for someone just going to the mall. She returned hours later without any shopping bags. When I questioned her, she said she hadn't found anything worthwhile. That night, lying beside her, I stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep with 1,000 thoughts running through my head. January 2019 arrived, and with it, another strange behavior. Lucy started washing our bed sheets every Tuesday and Thursday, religiously. She was always organized, but this was excessive. The summer heat makes me sweat a lot at night, she justified. But even on cooler days, the routine of changing the sheets continued. In February 2019, I went to buy bread at old Mr. Paul's bakery, as I did every morning. Mrs. Mercedes, the nosy neighbor on the corner, stopped me on the boardwalk. "Sergeant Ray, what a nice car stops at your house when you're not around. A black Cadillac, right? Must be important people," she commented with a malicious smile. I felt a chill in my stomach. Black Cadillac. The image of Arthur Sterling immediately came to mind. He was the only person I knew in Raleigh who had a car like that. But why would he be going to my house in my absence? "That must be a mistake, Mrs. Mercedes. I don't know anyone with a car like that," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "Oh, but I'm not wrong. Every Tuesday and Thursday, around 3 in the afternoon, he parks right there. He leaves alone around 5 o'clock, she insisted. I went home, stunned. Tuesday and Thursday, exactly the days Lucy washed the sheets, exactly during the hours I was at the station. But I still refused to believe what seemed obvious. I needed concrete proof before confronting her. In the following weeks, I started observing Lucy more closely. I noticed she dressed up especially on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She wore that dress I gave her for our wedding anniversary. She put on a stronger perfume. She applied her makeup carefully. "I'm going to the club to meet the girls for tea," was the justification. In March 2019, Lucy started complaining that I came home tired from work, that we didn't go out together anymore like before. "All you want to know about is the station and fishing with your buddies," she'd say. But when I suggested the movies or dinner out, she always had an excuse. "I have a headache today." "Oh, I promised Laura I'd go to her place." I remember one specific night in April 2019. I came back from the station, and Lucy was lying down, saying she was extremely tired. "I spent the day cleaning the house," she justified, but the house didn't look particularly clean, and her perfume was stronger than normal. When I went to kiss her, she turned her face, offering only her cheek. That hurt. The suspicions were piling up, but I still didn't want to believe. As a man who spent his whole life investigating crimes, I refused to investigate my own home. The love and respect I had for Lucy prevented me from doing something I considered undignified, like following her or checking her cell phone. But life has a way of forcing you to face the truth, even when you close your eyes to it. In May 2019, at 62, I had a knee problem while fishing. The doctor recommended 2 weeks of rest. I informed the station that I would take that period of medical leave. I didn't tell Lucy right away, thinking of surprising her, maybe preparing a special meal for her, trying to rekindle the flame of our relationship. The first Tuesday of my leave, May 7th, 2019, Lucy dressed up as usual and said she was going to the club. As soon as she left, I stayed at the window and saw something that froze me. A black Cadillac pulled up on the corner. She quickly got in and the car drove off. My world collapsed. All the suspicions I tried to deny were confirmed in that moment, but I still needed absolute certainty. As a police officer, I learned never to jump to conclusions. I decided I needed irrefutable evidence before confronting her. May 7th, 2019 was when my life began to fall apart. After seeing Lucy get into the black Cadillac, I spent the day in a daze, trying to find alternative explanations for what I had witnessed. Maybe it was just a ride from a friend with a new car. Maybe it was an executive taxi she had called. But deep down I knew. When she returned around 5:30 in the afternoon, her face was flushed, and a smile disappeared when she saw me sitting in the living room. "Ray, I thought you were at the station," she exclaimed, visibly nervous. "I'm on medical leave, knee problem," I replied, watching her every reaction. "Oh my God, why didn't you tell me? I would have stayed home to take care of you," she said, approaching to kiss me on the cheek. The men's cologne was ingrained in her clothes. "I didn't want to bother you, and apparently you were busy," I commented, unable to completely hide the bitterness in my voice. Lucy pretended not to notice my tone and quickly changed the subject, talking about her friends at the club, the tea they had, the gossip they had shared. While she spoke, I watched her gestures, her uneasiness, the way she avoided looking me in the eye. That night, Lucy went straight to the shower when I announced I was going to sleep. She stayed under the water for almost an hour, as if trying to wash away any trace of what she had done. When she finally came to bed, she lay as far away from me as possible, claiming she was hot. During the following days, I kept my medical leave routine without showing any signs of suspicion. Lucy continued with her outings, although she was more careful now. She no longer dressed up as much at home. She probably carried the clothes in her bag and changed elsewhere. Calls were answered only when she was alone, in the bedroom or the bathroom. It was Sunday, May 12th, 2019, Mother's Day, when I made a decision. We were having lunch together. An awkward silence hovered between us, broken only by the clinking of cutlery. Anne-Marie had called earlier to wish Lucy a happy Mother's Day, and Marcus had sent a message since he was in an area with poor communication. Suddenly, her cell phone rang. She looked at the screen, turned pale, and said she needed to take it on the porch. When she returned, her face was tight. "Who was that?" I asked casually, serving myself more rice. "Oh, it was Carmen from the club, just wishing me a happy Mother's Day," she replied without meeting my gaze. At that moment, I decided I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful. On Monday, May 13th, as soon as Lucy left to run errands, I opened the computer browser and searched for security cameras. I found an online store that sold micro cameras the size of a button, easy to hide, and that transmitted images directly to my cell phone. It went against everything I believed in, invading the privacy of my own home. But I felt I had no choice. I bought 4 cameras with urgent delivery. They arrived on Wednesday, May 15th, when Lucy had gone to the hair salon. I installed one in the living room, strategically positioned on the shelf between the picture frames, another in the kitchen disguised among the wall decorations, the third in the hallway leading to the bedrooms, and the last, very reluctantly, in our own bedroom, hidden on the bookshelf. The cameras were discreet, practically invisible if you didn't know where to look. I downloaded the app to my cell phone and tested the transmission. It worked perfectly. Now it was just a matter of waiting. Thursday, May 16th, 2019. I woke up with my stomach churning. Lucy got ready as usual. She said she was going shopping and would stop by the club afterward. She kissed me quickly on the forehead and left. As soon as I heard the gate close, I opened the app on my cell phone. For almost an hour, nothing happened. The house was empty and silent. At 2:15 in the afternoon, I heard the sound of the front gate opening. My heart raced when I saw the front door open through the living room camera. Lucy walked in, but she wasn't alone. A tall man with salt and pepper hair and a well-cut suit followed her. It was Arthur Sterling. I felt a pang in my chest when he grabbed her waist as soon as the door closed, kissing her with an intimacy that wounded me like a knife. "I missed you," he said, taking off his blazer. "This week felt endless." "Me too," Lucy replied in a voice I barely recognized, sweet and youthful. "But we have to be quick today. Ray is on leave. He might decide to come back early." "Is he still in that ridiculous job at the station?" Arthur asked disdainfully. "A retired lieutenant doing desk work. Pathetic." Lucy laughed, a laugh she had never directed at me. "He likes to feel useful, and the extra pay helps." They went to the kitchen, where Arthur took a bottle of red wine out of his briefcase. "I brought that Spanish one you love. It costs a fortune, but you deserve it." He expertly opened the bottle, poured 2 glasses, and they toasted. "To us," he said, "and to the future we'll have together." I couldn't take my eyes off the screen, even though every word felt like a punch to the gut. They talked for a few minutes, drinking the expensive wine that, as Arthur made a point of mentioning, cost more than my monthly salary. "How's your husband, the little sergeant?" he asked with a mocking smile. "Don't even talk to me," Lucy replied, rolling her eyes. "He gets more boring and predictable every day. Always the same stories from his police days. Always the same routines. Breakfast at 7, lunch at 12, dinner at 7 in the evening. It's like living with an old clock." "Why are you still with him?" Arthur asked, caressing her arm. Lucy shrugged. "Comfort, I guess. And the police medical insurance is excellent. With my blood pressure issues, I can't be without it." Those words hit me like a shotgun blast. 40 years of marriage reduced to comfort and medical insurance. 4 decades sharing life, raising children, building a home. And in the end, I was nothing more than a convenience. They moved down the hallway toward the bedroom. My hand trembled as I followed the images on my cell phone. Arthur hugged her from behind, kissing her neck. 40 years putting up with a little sergeant, he murmured. "You deserve better, my love." "And what would be better?" Lucy asked, turning to face him. "Me, of course," Arthur replied arrogantly. "When he dies, I'll marry you. Then you'll have everything you deserve. My house on the coast, international trips, jewelry, designer clothes, everything that failed cop could never give you." Lucy smiled, a smile that mixed melancholy and ambition. "Sometimes I think I wasted my life, Arthur. I could have had so much, seen so many places." "You chose poorly, my love, but there's still time to fix it," he said, leading her into the bedroom. What followed was the final humiliation. In the same bed where we slept for decades, where we conceived our children, where we shared dreams and nightmares, Lucy and Arthur made love. I couldn't watch for more than a few seconds before turning off the app, feeling physically and emotionally nauseous. I spent the next few hours wandering the city, driving aimlessly, occasionally stopping to throw up by the side of the road. The pain was indescribable, a mix of rage, disappointment, shame, and a deep, deep sense of helplessness. When I finally managed to calm down, I parked near the overlook on the Capitol building and watched the city in the distance. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and red. I thought about everything I had built in that city, all the good and bad memories. I thought about my children, who were too far away to witness the collapse of their parents' marriage. At 5:20 in the afternoon, I checked my phone again. Through the app, I saw Arthur saying goodbye to Lucy at the door. They were immaculate again, as if nothing had happened. He kissed her and left. Lucy immediately started tidying the house, changing the sheets, washing the glasses, opening the windows to clear the smell of cologne and sex. At 5:40, she picked up the phone and called me. I let it ring without answering. She tried 2 more times, probably worried about my prolonged absence. On the 3rd try, I answered. "Hello, my love," she said in a sweet, worried voice. "Where are you? It's almost dinner time." "I'm sorting some things out," I replied dryly. "Don't wait up for me. I'll be late." "Is everything okay?" "You sound strange," she asked, with a concern that I now knew was fake. "Everything's fine. I just need some time alone," I replied, and hung up before she could say anything else. I stayed at the overlook until the sky was completely dark, the city lights shining down below like fallen stars. What was I going to do now? How would I face Lucy knowing what I knew? How could I look into the eyes of the woman who had shattered my heart into pieces after 4 decades together? The answer came clear as the starry sky that night. I would confront the truth, no matter how painful. I deserved that after a lifetime of honesty and dedication. I returned home shortly after 9 o'clock that fateful May 16th, 2019. The sky was completely dark, sprinkled with stars that seemed indifferent to my pain. I parked the car in the garage and stayed there for a few minutes, trying to gather the strength to go inside. 40 years of marriage were about to fall apart in a single conversation. When I finally entered, Lucy was pacing in the living room. Her face showed worry, but I knew now it was just another one of her acts. She rushed toward me as soon as she saw me. "Ray, where were you?" "I was worried," she exclaimed, trying to hug me. I pulled away from the embrace, something I had never done in all our years together. Her confused look almost made me waver. Almost. "We need to talk," I said, my voice sounding strangely calm, even to myself. "Of course, my love." "What's wrong?" she asked, indicating the sofa. The same sofa where Arthur Sterling had placed his expensive blazer hours earlier. "No, not here," I replied. "Let's go to the kitchen." In the kitchen, I sat at the table and placed my cell phone face down in front of me. Lucy sat on the other side, visibly uneasy. The silence stretched for a few painful seconds before I could speak. "Lucy, how long has it been?" I finally asked, looking her directly in the eye. "How long has what been, Ray?" she replied, frowning in an expression of confusion she had surely practiced many times. "You and Arthur Sterling, how long has it been?" Her face instantly turned pale. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. For a moment, it seemed she was going to deny it, but something in my look must have shown her it would be useless. "How? How did you know?" she finally stammered, her voice almost a whisper. "Does it matter? Answer my question. How long have you been cheating on me with him?" Lucy lowered her eyes, her fingers nervously playing with her wedding band, the same band I had placed on her finger in 1986, when I promised to love and respect her for life, a promise she clearly didn't take seriously. 2 years, she confessed quietly. It started in 2017, after I retired. 2 Years and 730 days of lies, betrayal, deceit. While I worked, took care of the house, and the thought about our future together, she was in the arms of another man. Why? I asked, the word coming out as if ripped from my throat. Lucy finally looked up, and I saw something in her eyes that I had never noticed before. A mix of resentment and regret, not for what she did, but for being caught. Do you really want to know, Ray? She asked, her voice gaining a bitter tone. Do you really want me to tell you? I want the truth. After 40 years, it's the least I deserve. She took a deep breath, as if preparing to finally remove a mask she had worn for a long time. Because I felt invisible, Ray. Because for years, all you ever talk about is the patrol, your achievements, your stories, that I've heard 1,000 times. Because you never asked what I want, what I feel, what I dream. I was stunned by those words. What did she mean? I never asked what she wanted. Our entire marriage had been built around the family's needs, including hers. I always worked hard to give you and our children everything I could, I argued, feeling indignation rise inside me. Everything you could, she emphasized, a dry laugh escaping her lips. And what you could was so little, Ray. A simple house in Raleigh, vacations at Myrtle Beach, an economy car you replace every 10 years. And that wasn't enough. We had a decent life, Lucy. We never went without. Decent, she repeated with disdain. I wanted more than decent, Ray. I wanted to live, see places, experience new things, feel desired, admired. And Arthur gives you all that, I concluded, the bitter taste of bile rising in my throat. Yes, she admitted bluntly. Arthur makes me feel alive. He takes me to Charlotte for fancy restaurants. He gives me jewelry, designer clothes. He treats me like a queen, not just a housewife. Every word was like a knife stab. 40 years reduced to material possessions, to status. The love I thought we shared was nothing but an illusion. And are our children also part of that dissatisfaction of yours? I asked, knowing it was a low blow, but unable to stop myself. For an instant, I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes. Our children are the only good thing we did together, Ray, she said softly. I love them more than anything, but not enough to respect their father. Lucy didn't respond. The silence weighed between us like a physical, almost suffocating presence. Then I picked up my cell phone and slid it across the table. What is this? She asked, confused. See for yourself, I replied, opening the camera app and showing her the recordings from that day. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw the images of herself with Arthur in our house. Her face went from pale to deep red. You spied on me, she asked, indignant. You put cameras in our house? Our house, I emphasized. The house I built with my hard-earned little sergeant's salary, as your lover likes to call me. Lucy fell silent, her eyes fixed on the images that continued to play on the cell phone screen. It's good that the fool is at the station, I quoted her words that I had heard on the recording. I only put up with him for the police medical insurance. Every word was like venom leaving my mouth. She didn't deny it. She couldn't deny it with the evidence right before her eyes. What do you want me to say, Ray? She finally asked, her voice defeated. The truth, Lucy. For once in your life, tell me the truth. Did you ever love me? The question hung in the air for a moment that felt like an eternity. Lucy looked at her hands, then at the kitchen walls, where we had shared so many meals, conversations, and laughs. I did love you, yes, she replied quietly. In the beginning, when we were young and full of dreams, I admired your dedication, your sense of duty, your honesty. But over time, I don't know, Ray. Life became monotonous, predictable. While my friends were traveling, buying beach houses, changing cars every year, we continued in the same routine. So, it was about money, I concluded, feeling a knot in my throat. 40 years of marriage thrown away for money. It's not just money, she tried to argue. It's the attention, the affection, the desire. Spare me the details, I cut in, unable to hear any more. All I know is that while I was dedicating my life to protecting people, to serving my country with honor, my own wife was betraying me with a man who doesn't have half my character, just because he has money. Lucy abruptly stood up, tears finally streaming from her eyes. It's not fair to simplify it like that, Ray. Our marriage has been dead for years. Our marriage was alive to me, I shouted, hitting the table so hard it shook. It was the first time in 40 years I had raised my voice against her. I still loved you, Lucy. I was still planning our future together. I still dreamed of meeting our grandchildren, traveling with you when I finally retired completely. Tears ran freely down my face. Now, all the pain and disappointment of hours of discovery were finally finding their way out. Lucy was crying too, but her sobs no longer moved me. Forgive me, she whispered. I never meant to hurt you. You never meant to hurt me, I repeated in disbelief. You brought your lover into our house, into our bed. You laughed at me, mocked my profession, my salary, my dedication, and you never meant to hurt me. Lucy slumped back into the chair, covering her face with her hands. She looked small, fragile, nothing like the confident woman I had seen in the recordings hours earlier. What are we going to do now? She asked between sobs. I looked at the woman with whom I had shared almost my entire adult life, the mother of my children, the person I thought would be my partner until the end, and I felt an immense emptiness, as if everything we built together had never truly existed. There is no us anymore, Lucy, I replied with a calm that surprised me. You chose your path when you decided to betray not only your husband, but also your vows, your family, your principles. Ray, please, she begged, reaching her hand across the table to try and reach mine. We can try again. We can go to couples therapy. We can... I pulled my hand away before she could touch it. No, Lucy. Some things, once broken, cannot be repaired. Trust is one of them. I got up from the table, feeling the weight of every one of my 62 years. My knee hurt. My heart hurt even more. But a decision had been made. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight, I announced. Tomorrow we start discussing the terms of separation. Separation, she repeated, as if the word were in a foreign language she didn't understand. Yes, Lucy, separation, divorce, the end of 40 years of marriage that apparently only meant something to me. I left the kitchen without looking back, feeling her eyes follow me. In the hallway, I stopped in front of the wall of photos documenting our life together. The wedding, the births of our children, graduations, birthdays, Christmases, an entire life captured in images that now seemed to belong to strangers. In the guest room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring into space. Outside, the Raleigh night continued, as always, indifferent to the fact that my world had just collapsed. The same cool May winds blew through the window cracks. The same starry sky shone out there. The same quiet streets I had known since childhood. I thought about my children. How I would tell them. Marcus, so much like me, serious and reserved. Anne-Marie, intelligent and sensitive. How would they react to learning that their parents, after so many years together, were separating? How would I explain that the family we built with so much effort had been destroyed by greed and vanity? I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, reviewing every moment of the last few years, looking for signs I should have noticed, words I should have said, actions that might have changed the course of events. But deep down, I knew there was nothing I could have done. Lucy had made her choice, not out of impulse or momentary passion, but deliberately, day after day, for 2 long years. The next morning, May 17th, 2019, I woke up, if you can call it waking up when you haven't slept, feeling like a stranger in my own skin, as if the Ray from yesterday had died during the night, and a new man, older, wearier, more skeptical, had taken his place. I left the room early, before Lucy woke up. I made a strong coffee. I sat on the porch and watched the sun rise over Raleigh. The birds were singing. The neighbors were starting their routines. The mailman was passing by making his morning delivery. The world kept spinning, indifferent to my pain. When Lucy finally appeared, she was distraught, with deep bags under her eyes and a face swollen from crying. She silently poured coffee and sat on the other side of the table. "I didn't sleep all night," she commented, as if that might elicit some sympathy from me. "Me neither," I replied dryly. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the sound of the cups against the saucers being the only thing breaking the morning stillness. "Ray," she began hesitantly, "about yesterday." "I don't want to talk about yesterday," I cut in. "What's done is done. Now we need to decide how we'll move forward from here." Lucy nodded slowly, accepting my decision. "What do you have in mind?" "I'm moving out of the house," I announced. "I'm going to look for an apartment to rent today. This house has too many memories, both good and bad. I can't keep living here." "You don't need to leave," she protested weakly. "I can go to my sister's in Charlotte until—" "Until what, Lucy?" "Until Arthur invites you to live with him. Until you two decide, if you're going to be together now, that you don't need to hide anymore." She lowered her head, ashamed. "It's not like that." "I don't care how it is," I replied. "You and Arthur can do whatever you want now. I just want distance." "And our children?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What are we going to tell them?" The same question that had tormented me all night. "The truth," I replied simply. "That after 40 years, we decided to go our separate ways." "Are you going to tell them about Arthur?" I looked at her for a long time before answering. "I'm not the one who should tell them that, Lucy. It's your choice. But they are adults. They'll figure it out sooner or later." Lucy started crying again. Silent sobs that shook her shoulders. For a moment, I felt the impulse to console her, as I had done so many times throughout our marriage. But that impulse was soon replaced by the memory of the images I had seen, of the cruel words I had heard. "I'm going to call a real estate agent," I said, getting up. "And a lawyer, too. The sooner we settle this, the better." "Do you really not want to try again?" she asked in one last, desperate plea for everything we lived through together. I stopped at the porch door and looked at her. The morning sun illuminated her face, highlighting every line that time had drawn. She was still a beautiful woman, even at 58. A woman I loved deeply, for whom I would have given my life without hesitation. "You were the one who gave up first, Lucy," I replied with sadness. "When you brought another man into our house, into our bed, when you laughed at me behind my back, when you decided that 40 years of life together were worth less than some expensive gifts and fancy dinners." I walked out the door without waiting for her reply. There was nothing more to say. The marriage, which began in 1986, full of dreams and promises, had ended on a cool May morning in 2019, leaving only the bitter taste of betrayal and the certainty that nothing I believed was real. That same afternoon, I rented a small apartment downtown, near the station. I didn't need much space. It was just me now. I only took the essentials: some clothes, documents, photos of the children. I left behind the furniture, the appliances, everything we had bought together over the years. Material objects that, as I discovered in the most painful way, meant nothing without the love and trust that should accompany them. When I left the house with the few bags I had packed, Lucy was at the door, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "Forgive me, Ray," she pleaded one last time. I never wanted it to end like this. I looked at her for the last time as her husband. "You chose to be poor, Ray," she had told Arthur, according to the recordings. The irony was palpable. "Now you chose to be poor, Lucy," I replied, deliberately using the formal address instead of the familiar one I always used with her. Poor in character, poor in principle, poor in loyalty. I may not have money, but I have something that neither you nor Arthur will ever have: dignity. With those words, I got into the car and drove away, leaving behind not only the house where I had lived for so many years, but also the life I thought I had, the dreams I nurtured, and the trust I placed in someone who didn't deserve it. Master Sergeant Ray Johnson, who for 40 years defended his country and family with honor and dedication, discovered in the cruelest way that the true enemy had been sleeping beside him all along. 6 years have passed since that May of 2019. Today, at 68, I look out the window of my small downtown Raleigh apartment and see the city I've known all my life through different eyes. I still work part-time at the station, though I could have stopped long ago. The job keeps me sane, gives me purpose, and fills the hours that would otherwise be consumed by painful memories. The divorce was finalized in October 2019. After 5 months of tense negotiations and endless paperwork, Lucy kept the house and half of our savings. I didn't fight for more. Money was never important to me, and that house held memories I preferred to forget. News of our separation spread quickly through Raleigh. In a small city like ours, secrets don't have long legs. Telling our children was the hardest part. In June 2019, a month after the separation, Marcus took a leave and came to Raleigh. He was 30 at the time. He was already a captain in the Army, with the same disciplined posture he inherited from me. I told him about the separation without going into detail about the betrayal, but Marcus was always perceptive. "She's the one who cheated on you, right, Dad?" he asked directly while we had coffee on the balcony of my new apartment. I couldn't lie to my son. I confirmed it with a nod, unable to put the humiliation I had felt into words. Marcus was silent for a long time, his eyes mixed on the horizon. "I suspected it," he finally said. "The last few times I came home, I noticed how different she was. Always on her cell phone, always with excuses to go out. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to influence her relationship with her mother. Despite everything, Lucy was still the mother of my children." "What are you going to do now, Dad?" he asked, worry evident in his voice. "Keep going," I replied simply. "What else can I do?" Anne-Marie received the news by phone. She was in the middle of her medical residency in Charlotte and couldn't leave. She cried a lot. She said she would come as soon as possible. When she finally got a break in July 2019, she came straight to my apartment. "Why, Dad?" she asked through tears as she hugged me. "You seemed so happy together." "Sometimes appearances are deceiving, sweetheart," I replied, feeling my own eyes fill with tears. "Sometimes we build an entire life on illusions." Anne-Marie spent a few days with me, then went to visit her mother. When she returned, she was serious, thoughtful. "She told me everything," she said. sitting beside me on the small apartment sofa. About Arthur. About the 2 years of betrayal. I was surprised that Lucy had been so honest. Maybe it was a sign of repentance, or maybe she just wanted to gain her daughter's sympathy before I told my version. She's living with him now, Anne-Marie continued, in his house, in the Country Club Hills neighborhood. The news shouldn't have surprised me, but I still felt a pang in my chest. So fast. We had barely separated, and Lucy had already gone to the arms of her lover, now, officially, her partner. "I hope she's happy," I said. And to my surprise, I realized it was true. There was no more rage, just a resigned sadness for the end of something I believed was special. Life continued its course. In December 2019, I spent my first Christmas alone in over 4 decades. Marcus was on a mission overseas, and Anne-Marie was assigned to an emergency room shift at the hospital. I heard through acquaintances that Lucy had traveled with Arthur to Europe, Paris, Rome, Barcelona, the places she had always dreamed of seeing, and that I, with my modest police salary, could never provide for her. In 2020, when the pandemic hit the world, I worried about my children. Marcus was in a high-risk area, and Anne-Marie was on the front lines, treating infected patients. I spent hours on the phone with them, offering the support I could from a distance. I heard that Lucy and Arthur had been trapped in Italy for a few weeks due to border closures, but eventually managed to return to the U.S. During that period of isolation, I started reflecting more deeply on my life, on the choices I made. I don't regret being a police officer, dedicating my life to the safety of my community. But perhaps I neglected important aspects of my marriage. Maybe I took Lucy for granted, assuming she shared the same values as me. In 2021, at 64, I had a heart problem. Nothing serious, but enough to make me face my own mortality. I was hospitalized for a week at Raleigh General Hospital. Marcus got leave to visit me, and Anne-Marie, now a graduated doctor, consulted the best cardiologists in Charlotte about my case. It was during that hospitalization that Lucy came to see me. She was thinner, with shorter hair, dressed in elegant clothes that Arthur had certainly bought. She seemed nervous entering the hospital room. "Ray," she said hesitantly, stopping beside my bed. "How are you?" "I've been better," I replied with a half-smile. "But the doctors say I'll make a full recovery." She nodded, her eyes scanning the equipment I was connected to, the white walls of the room, anything but my face. "I heard from Marcus," she explained. "I thought I should come see you." "Thank you for coming," I said sincerely. There was no resentment left, only the realization that we were now in different chapters of our lives. Lucy sat in the chair next to the bed, nervously adjusting her designer handbag in her lap. "And how have you been? Aside from this, I mean." "Fine," I replied. "I'm still at the station part-time. I fish on weekends. I visit the kids when I can. It's a simple life, but it satisfies me." She smiled sadly. "You were always like that, weren't you? Always content with little." "It's not about being content with little, Lucy," I replied, feeling the need to clarify something she may never have understood. "It's about valuing what truly matters. Honor, dignity, character." Lucy lowered her eyes, and I saw that my words had hit a nerve. "I made a mistake, Ray. A terrible mistake. Let's leave the past in the past," I suggested, not wanting to reopen that pain. "What's done is done." She looked at me with the teary eyes. "You were always too good a man for me." I didn't answer. There was nothing to say. Lucy stayed a few more minutes, asking about my treatment and commenting on the children. When she said goodbye, she hesitated for a moment, as if wanting to say something more, but ended up just lightly squeezing my hand before leaving. I found out a few months later that she and Arthur had broken up. Apparently, The great businessman had found a younger woman, a model from New York. Lucy returned to the house that had been ours, now alone. She tried to reconnect with old friends and resume her life in Raleigh. But a small city has a long memory. Many doors were closed to her. In 2022, Marcus married Laura, a lieutenant he met during training. The ceremony was at the military club in Charlotte, elegant and formal. Lucy and I attended, of course, but we stayed on opposite sides of the room. Our children tried hard to navigate between two parents who barely spoke. In 2023, Anne-Marie gave us our first grandchild, Sophia. I held that tiny creature in my arms and felt an emotion I hadn't experienced in a long time. Life continued through new generations, new beginnings. It was that same year that I received an unexpected call from Lucy. Her voice sounded different, more fragile. "Ray, I just got the diagnosis," she said without preamble. "Breast cancer. Early stage, but I'll need surgery and treatment." I was silent for a moment, absorbing the news. Despite everything that had happened between us, I still cared about her, the mother of my children, the woman with whom I had shared so many years of my life. "Do you need anything?" I finally asked. "I can go with you to the appointments if you want." There was a pause on the other end of the line, as if she hadn't expected the offer. "Thank you," she replied, her voice breaking. That would mean a lot to me. In the following weeks, I took Lucy to appointments in Charlotte. I waited during her surgery. I helped with the medical insurance paperwork. Ironically, the same police medical insurance she had mentioned as one of the reasons for staying married to me. It wasn't out of revenge or to rub it in, but because it was the right thing to do. Because despite everything, 40 years of history aren't completely erased. Marcus and Anne-Marie were surprised by my decision to help Lucy, but they supported me. "You're a better man than I would be, Dad," Marcus commented when he came to Raleigh during his mother's recovery. Lucy recovered well from the surgery and treatment. Our relationship obviously never returned to what it was, but we found a civil way to coexist, mainly for the sake of the children and our granddaughter. In 2024, at 67, I was honored by the State Highway Patrol for 50 years of service to public safety, counting from my enrollment in 1975 to the administrative work I still do. It was a simple but meaningful ceremony. Marcus came in uniform, proud. Anne-Marie brought little Sophia, who ran around the station, delighted with the uniforms and patrol cars. To my surprise, Lucy also attended, discreetly, sitting at the back. "Congratulations, Ray," she told me afterward when everyone was leaving. "You deserve every medal and every recognition. You were always an honorable man." I thanked her with a nod, not knowing what else to say. There was genuine regret in her eyes, a sadness for what might have been and wasn't. And now, in 2025, at 68, I reflect on everything that has happened, on the lessons I learned, on the meaning of a life lived. I lost a 4-decade marriage to betrayal and greed, but I did not lose my dignity, my character, or my principles. Those no one can take from me. Life taught me that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who can hurt us the deepest. That trusting is a risk we need to take. But we must be prepared for the consequences. That money and status, so important to some, do not buy true character or happiness. Lucy ended up discovering this the hard way. Abandoned by Arthur when he found a younger, shinier version, she found herself alone, having lost not only the material comfort she valued so much, but also the respect of the community, and, most importantly, the love and trust of a man who would have given his life for her. I don't take pleasure in her misfortune, only a resigned sadness for the waste of something that could have been beautiful until the end. My days are quiet now. I wake up early out of habit. I drink my coffee on the small apartment balcony. I go to the station at 2 in the afternoon and return at 6. On weekends, I fish at the lake with old friends. I visit my granddaughter when Anne-Marie comes to Raleigh. I talk to Marcus by video call. It's a simple life, but it's an honorable one. A life that, despite the scars, makes me proud. If this story warmed your heart a little, like it warmed mine, leave a like to brighten this 68-year-old's day. Subscribe to the channel now, dear friend, so you don't miss the next stories I'll tell with all my heart. And tell me something in the comments. Where are you watching this video from? And what time is it for you right now? Have you ever faced a betrayal like this in your life? How did you overcome it? This old man is very happy to know who is on the other side listening to me, and at what moment of your day you took a little time to listen to me. A big hug, the size of my heart.